What's up, YouTube? What's up? How you doing out there? Hope you're having a good day. Hope you got lots of love in your life. Hope you got lots of liberty in your life. Today, we're going to talk about why MAGA Christians hate Christ's teachings. Okay? Why the MAGA Christians hate the teachings of Christ. Why am I making this video? MAGA is spreading toxic garbage throughout our society. Ignoring it is only going to cause it to spread faster. And it is now up to men and women of integrity to not only clean up the mess that these people have made, but also to stop the constant spread of sludge and hold accountable the polluters, who are simultaneously poaching the free will of impressionable and disadvantaged young men and women. See, I grew up in the white, conservative, right-wing, evangelical Christian cult. And in short, my life was saved by men of integrity who refused to passively abide my free will being lost to a cult who only wants to use and exploit its followers as pawns for their theocratic political power, no matter the human cost. These men of integrity who saved me by giving me a bridge to leave the hate cult, by carefully, calmly, systematically showing me how the beliefs I was voting for truly hurt people that I care about deeply, and how the right-wing beliefs that I was passively co-signing to go along with my peer group drastically conflicted with and attacked the values I claim to support. Over time, looking myself in the mirror like a man should do, unafraid to face reality, not delusion, committing to myself to choose what is true over what's easy, always, no matter what, committing to choose what is true always, even over friends, family, or anyone in my life who pressured me to go along with a group lie. Choosing truth over everything else is what changed my life forever, for the better, in ways I could have never imagined. Since then, since leaving that cult, I have lived a life that I am positive as a historian that kings of the past would envy. My life may not be your perfect life, but it is mine. I do have the experience of living my dream life, and it would be impossible if I had stayed in that rage cult that raised me. That's just me being real with you. And I'm not selling you anything. I never will. I will never take a single sponsorship on this tiny little channel. I am just here to pass on what I've been given. And none of the joy that I have in life could have ever happened if I stayed in the cult that raised me. So I'm making these videos to document my hypertrophy training, which I would be doing anyway, while also using this space to speak to the impressionable young men who, like me, may have become caught up in something they don't even agree with, that they don't even really co-sign, but they haven't yet been shown a visible, viable path away from. I'm here to hold a lantern for men who still want to put love, liberty, truth, and their own free will over the control of a cult. Like me, like my life, even one life saved from the incredible waste of time and waste of life that living for a cult is, makes anything worth it. To the people who don't need this message, you're not going to be negatively impacted by it. If it don't apply, let it fly. But those who do need it may literally, like me, have their lives saved by it. And just to be clear, it is not me doing any saving or inventing or coming up with anything that I'm saying here. This is simply the inevitable, almost magical result of any man or woman on earth who choose to live up to the same values that they want for themselves. when you stand up for the things you truly desire for yourself, like liberty, truth, and love, we all want those for ourselves. When you stand up for the things you truly desire for yourself, for all people, good things will happen for you and all of society. When people refuse to stand for the things that they want for themselves, when people stand against liberty, truth, and love, even though they want those things for themselves, chaos follows. I believe something like karma ultimately rewards integrity and punishes hypocrisy. Something like karma, whether it's a God, whether it's a universal force, whatever it is, and you know they say God works in mysterious ways, it's not like you do something bad, you get struck by lightning. It's more complex than that. But I believe that something like karma ultimately rewards integrity and punishes hypocrisy. Human life could be so much better for everyone on earth than what they are now living. I am simply a beneficiary of ancient wisdom that any true seeker will eventually find. You can find it in millions of sources. And I'm just passing it on as I have received it and lived it so that humanity may live up to the best of our potential instead of our lowest. So talking about why MAGA Christians hate the teachings of Christ, first off, at their core, they don't hate those teachings because the teachings that Christ taught were universal, like liberty, truth, and love, and we'll get into a little bit. The teachings ascribed to Christ are universal. All people want them. All people understand the truth of them innately. So at their core, all human beings don't hate those teachings because they are universal. But after some other human comes into their life and pours some hate into them, that's when it starts to change. Okay, so every child born innately wants their own liberty. They want to be told truth. They don't even understand the concept of a lie until they experience it the first time. They assume that their parents are telling them the truth. And of course, every human being wants love. These are all the things that Jesus Christ taught, and we can go through MAGA 10,000 different ways and talk about how they're violating all of these principles, and how if you live by these principles and you're in MAGA or you're in the right-wing Christian cult like I was, they will attack you. You cannot consistently stand up for these principles inside that group, or it will attack you and push you out because it is selling the opposite. So why? Why do these MAGA Christians hate the teachings of Christ while they wrap themselves in his name? And we identify these specific subgroups of MAGA because MAGA is clinging to power by a tiny thread. Any one of these groups we've been talking about who is currently giving blind obedience to MAGA in exchange for the self-delusion and rage that MAGA gives them back, such as the incels we've talked about, who deep down want to learn how to attract the highest quality women, and that is to say intelligent, independent, strong, truthful, loving women who are beautiful on the inside as they are the outside, to actually love them, not pretend to love them, not marry them for ulterior motives. There's this whole group of incels in MAGA, and all they want deep down is for these women to love them. Or the Christians that we're going to talk about today out there who actually do want to follow the words of Christ, but are caught in a group who will attack them for doing that. There's a group of weak men who never had someone masculine to teach them how to be a man, who just want to learn how to be strong, and they've been taken in by MAGA. Any of these groups starting to leave this cult would almost ensure that the MAGA cult ends. They're hanging on by such a tiny thread that if we can reach out to any of these groups that I've just talked about and rehabilitate them, show them the way of men who aren't trying to sell them anything, but just trying to help them, okay? And we're going to get into the story of today, but to very quickly address three of the groups that we've identified: the incels, the Christians who actually want to live by the words of Christ, weak men who want to learn how to be strong. Spoiler alert, actually living by these principles is going to end up being the shortcut answer to all of these things. And that's going to hit some people wrong because they want something spicy. They want a conspiracy theory. They want something that is going to make them feel like there's something they're not without having to do any of the hard work we're about to put in today. And the hard work sometimes involves mental work, thinking, debating, reading. Okay? Actually seeking truth, not in a fake way, not in a way to validate your own biases and desires, but in a way to say, show me reality, show me truth. Okay, if you're an incel and you start living by these principles and you want them for yourself, so why would you not stand for them? Because it's hard? Because hyenas will attack you? Okay, we're going to get into all of it, but we're going to always come back to that these principles are what unite the common ground of the people that we're trying to find. People who are susceptible to MAGA, who fall into it even though they disagree with it and just end up going along with it. People who have never had the time or money to travel outside their hometown. People who had to rely on other MAGA people for jobs, income, or financial support. People who have been made to fear hell their entire lives. You know, some of these people really believe that if they don't do what their father, what their priest, what their church tells them, that they're going to be tortured for all eternity. Many of these people believe that. And that is one of these groups of people. People who've been made to fear hell and believe their pastor / father understands how to get to heaven better than they do. Because, spoiler alert, we will get to this later, if they actually read the Bible for themselves, that's how most people end up leaving the church, is actually reading the Bible. The more you read the Bible, the more you will see how corrupt the church is, how nobody in the church even really cares to follow what the Bible says, and how much the Bible contradicts itself. If you actually read the Bible, you will see that the teachings of Christ stand out above everything. It's like, it looks like one person wrote all this BS, and then you have something beautiful, the teachings of Christ, sticking out like a sore thumb inside. Okay, because what this group has done all throughout history under different names has absorbed whatever is good and called itself that, and then surrounded it with its toxicity. So that's why you have these people saying that they're patriots as they're giving the president permission to destroy the Constitution, not thinking that if a president can destroy the Constitution, they can take away your Second Amendment. But we're getting outside the point. We're talking about people who have been made to fear hell and believe that their pastor or father understands how to get to heaven better than they do. That is a group of people who can be taken in by MAGA. People who've grown up around a peer group who are MAGA and are afraid of losing them or offending them or fighting with them. Okay, these are all people who can get sucked into MAGA even though they don't really agree with all of the destruction, toxicity, lying, etc. When we look at Jesus's plain-spoken teachings with MAGA's own words and deeds, the dissonance is not abstract. It doesn't require any kind of interpretation or deep thinking. It is documented, literal fact. MAGA's words and deeds conflict with everything Jesus taught. We're going to talk about it. Love your enemies. Blessed are the peacemakers. Things that Jesus taught. Versus MAGA's policies of retribution, pardoning political violence, and death-first rhetoric. Jesus' Sermon on the Mount commands love of enemies and elevates peacemakers as God's children. Matthew 5:44 and Matthew 5:9. He tells his followers to put the sword away. Matthew 26:52. MAGA, flagship leader Donald Trump, runs on retribution. He promised it on stage, literal quote, "I am your retribution," and has made it a governing theme. After Returning to office, he pardoned over 1,000 January 6 defendants who had been convicted by juries of their peers. People convicted for an attack that was the opposite of the peacemaking that Jesus preached. Trump also repeatedly pushes the death penalty, like bombing suspected drug dealers without any kind of trial or even knowing their name. The death penalty for drug dealers? Christ's policy was turn the other cheek. And I'm not even saying I agree with that. I'm saying this is why MAGA hates the teachings of Christ, but they call themselves Christians because it sounds good. And this is just further proof of getting high on self-delusion. These obvious lies we can talk through, and it just becomes obvious to the people in it that it's all BS, and they choose to either stay in it, like I said, because they've never had the time or money to travel outside their hometown. That's a group of people sucked in who don't even believe with the BS, but they get sucked into it because they just don't have the time or money to travel. Because if you do, you will find connections like who you really are, and you will go and gravitate towards that tribe. You won't stay stuck in the tribe that you were just born into, that you don't even agree with. People who had to rely on MAGA people for jobs, income, financial support, they get sucked into this cult and don't know how to get out of it. So these videos are going to show all of these people a path to get out of the self-delusion and the cult. Stop ruining their own lives. Get their free will back. Join us all. Take jerseys off. Nobody's wearing any jerseys. We're uniting under these principles that we all want for ourselves. Then you got the group of people who've been made their whole life to believe in hell and to be afraid of hell and think that their pastor or their daddy knows better about how to get them into heaven than they do. Those people can get sucked into this. Or anybody who's just grown up around a peer group who is MAGA and is afraid of losing or offending them, okay? These are all the people, they don't agree with what's going on, but they can't defend what they actually believe in because of all these reasons that I just talked about. And again, Jesus taught, love your enemies, blessed are the peacemakers. We just went through how MAGA completely turns their back on that. Next, Jesus says, whatever you did for the least of these. What does the least mean? That is crystal clear. That's not open for interpretation. If you call yourself a Christian, then the person that you believe was a God on earth says, whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me. And so we see if you call yourself Christian and everything you do in MAGA is the complete opposite of that, we know you don't stand for truth. We're not throwing mud at you or attacking you. We love you enough to tell you the truth. Stop getting high on self-delusion. How are you going to call yourself by the name of a man who said, whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me? How does it get more clear than the least? Jesus tied judgment to concrete mercy, feeding the hungry, welcoming the stranger. Matthew 25:35-40. MAGA governance has made deterrence the brand. In 2018, their family separation policy is a matter of record. It's a fact. With Department of Homeland Security and court filings tallying thousands of children taken from parents. Whatever you did to the least of these, you did to me. Thousands of children taken from parents. Today's MAGA agenda doubles down. Mass deportations, detention camps are, quote, not ruled out. Using the National Guard or even active duty troops domestically in our streets. And a historically tiny refugee ceiling that clearly preferences a white subset of people. That is all the inverse of welcoming the stranger, okay? In other words, that's literally the exact opposite of what Christ taught, and it's not up for debate. It's a fact. Why MAGA Christians hate Christ's teachings. Right now, we're showing demonstrations that all of their actions oppose Christ's teachings. We started out talking that they actually believe in the teachings of Christ because they're universal before some other human comes into their life and pours poison on top of those pure principles. And now we're going through and showing all of the different ways that everything they do, it doesn't require any interpretation. It doesn't require any debate. Christ said one thing, they do the exact opposite. And at the end, we're going to talk about why. And we've talked about a little bit of why, about the subgroups of people who get sucked into MAGA, even though they don't believe in what MAGA does. So whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me. They think that man was God. They wrap themselves in his name, and they hate that teaching. Whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me. It makes them so mad. It makes them so mad if you even talk about it and point out how much they live against it, because it causes them to feel shame because they know it's wrong. And the shame then makes them feel anger because they don't want to feel shame. You made them feel shame. Now they're angry at you. And so now they attack. But they never get out of the feedback loop of understanding how the whole system works in the first place. Whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me. If you claim that man and then you live your life against what he taught, you're going to have the constant karma of hypocrisy. The constant law of attraction of hypocrisy. If you're a Christian, then God knows that you're living against what Christ taught. So by any belief system, you are invoking bad things. Whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me. Next, welcome the stranger. Jesus quote, welcome the stranger. Plus the story of the Good Samaritan versus Donald Trump saying immigrants are poisoning the blood, and the ban on Muslims. The Good Samaritan parable obliterates tribal lines and commands aid to the outsiders. Luke 10:25-37. Jesus explicitly includes the stranger in the moral test. Matthew 25. Donald Trump labeled immigrants as poisoning the blood, has advanced a religion-screened travel ban that the MAGA Supreme Court upheld, and has revived mass expulsion plans. Wrap that in a Christian nationalist talking point of, quote, one national religion, and we have politics using Christianity to exclude people, not to love thy neighbor. Doing the exact opposite of what their Lord and Savior said without any ambiguity. It's as clear, it's as plain as day. Jesus said, let your yes be yes, / that the truth matters, versus the industrialized lying of MAGA and their war on a free press. Christ's standard is simple speech and truthfulness, Matthew 5:37. MAGA's engine runs on demonstrably false claims, like the 2020 elections and beyond, endlessly debunked by independent fact checkers and courts. And parallel to that is a years-long rhetorical assault on the press as, quote, the enemy of the people. Language that has historically been used by authoritarians and is flatly at odds with just telling the truth in the light, of not being afraid of the truth, of not having anything to hide, Epstein files. Jesus said, blessed are the poor, you cannot serve God and money, versus MAGA policy that just outright favors the privileged and the rich. So we're talking about why MAGA Christians hate Christ's actual teachings, even though they wrap themselves in his name. Jesus warns that you cannot serve both God and wealth, Matthew 6:24, and he repeats that riches choke the soul, Matthew 19:24. MAGA's signature legislative win, the 2017 tax law that preempted the big billionaires bill, delivered outsized almost all of the benefits to the top corporations and top earners of society by the tax policy center's own distribution tables. You cannot square Christ's preferential concern for the poor with a political movement whose only major financial policies are windfalls for the already privileged and the richest of society. Blessed are the poor. You cannot serve God and money versus MAGA. Why they hate everything Christ actually taught. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled. The idea of servant leadership versus a messianic ego of Donald Trump and a one-man rule king vibes. Christ ties leadership to humility and service. Matthew 23:12. MAGA's banner phrase with Donald Trump is "I alone can fix it." And its ongoing retribution crusade completely invert that ethic. That bluster, it's not incidental, it is their entire brand. The opposite of the humility and service that Christ taught. Their whole brand is the opposite of the humility and service that Christ taught. The whole point of the gospel is a servant king, not an authoritarian dictator, forcing other people to kneel to their will. Christ said, "Render to Caesar what is Caesar's. My kingdom is not of this world," versus these people trying to fuse church and state. Jesus refuses the throne his followers expect and draws a clear line between God and the state that he calls Caesar. MAGA land's most visible apostles of Christian nationalism call for one religion in America. And ultimately the whole world is what they dream of. But they call for one single religion in America. That's literal quote for one religion. And the movement repeatedly tries to weaponize the government for sectarian ends, from travel bans aimed at religion like Muslims to preferred refugee categories, white South Africans, is the opposite of Jesus' boundary keeping on government power, where he said, "My kingdom is not of this world. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's." Jesus' idea to turn the other cheek or de-escalate situations versus the constant escalatory talk of MAGA. Christ's whole ethic was about de-escalating, refusing retaliation, like in Matthew 5:39. Everything MAGA talks about, all of their propaganda that they spread, escalate, retribution, enemies of the people, immigrants are a biological threat, promises of harsher, quicker executions. The fruits of all of that rhetoric that they spread and spew is not peace. It's a license to be cruel. So the bottom line, this isn't about like trying to mind read these people or trying to see inside their hearts. It's about looking at the facts and the records of their actions and the words of the man that they claim is their God. Jesus' non-negotiables were truth-telling, peacemaking, loving your neighbor, especially the outsiders and the poor, humility, and a refusal to turn faith into state power. Matthew 5, Luke 10, Matthew 25 make this all crystal clear. Anybody who reads those understands it's It's as clear as day. It's not open to interpretation. The MAGA program and Donald Trump's explicit words and actions are also just as clear. Pardons for political violence, collective punishment of migrants, a retribution ethos, a travel ban upheld precisely because it discriminated by country lists skewed to Muslims, refugee gates narrowed to a historical low with white-favored categories, a scorched earth war on the press, and a tax regime tilted completely to the 1% of the income ladder. Not to mention, as a party, pretending to ignore that people in the DOJ and FBI are saying that Epstein files are worse than you could imagine for Donald Trump. That is what's leaking out. And how do you get people who believe in the teachings of Christ to go along with sheltering Donald Trump from the Epstein files? It's not like a near miss or a misinterpretation of Christ's teachings. It is a systematic inversion of them. Up is down, left is right, blue is red. Using Christ's name as a disguise to accomplish the opposite of everything he taught. It is blatant cult insanity. If someone actually wanted to align a public political movement with Christ's teaching, the checklist would not be complicated. Stop excusing lies. Stop calling a free press the enemy when they uncover these lies. Tell the truth plainly in the open and without fear. Replace retribution and symbolism of force with mercy, peacemaking, and equal justice for all people. Welcome the stranger in practice. End mass expulsion, fascist fantasies, and reverse policies that punish the most vulnerable, disenfranchised, and exploited among humanity. Prioritize the poor and working class over corporate billionaire donors and oligarchs. Write laws that actually lift the bottom and level the playing field. Embrace fair competition without needing to cheat. Keep church and state separate and distinct. Don't use Jesus as a scapegoat for the people's civic work to cultivate and maintain a just democratic republic. Anything less than that, calling itself Christian, is deceptive branding. The way the big oligarchs who own all of the stores you buy in the grocery store, the way when you look them up, they're all owned by like 4 or 5 companies. And why do they hide that? Deceptive branding. They don't want to brand everything under the same name so that 4 or 5 companies own it all. That's off-putting. That's why these people like to call themselves Christians, because they know that the values that Christ taught were universal. They know that everybody likes what Jesus taught, so we're going to use that name like a parasite, like a wolf in sheep's clothing, like a cancer cell, to sneak our way into the body under false pretenses, wrapping our name in this man who everybody agrees with the teachings of, and then everything we do is the opposite. So why do MAGA Christians hate Christ's teachings? Because you cannot stand up for Christ's teachings and be MAGA. You can't. They will kick you out of the group if you try to stand for everything that we talked about that is not up for debate. It's what's in the Bible that Christ taught, and they're the ones saying Christ is King, Christ is God. But we see them everything. We can read what he taught, and we can see what they're doing and their policies, and we can say these are the opposite. Only people getting high on self-delusion would not care. Anybody who cares about truth will care. And what we will wrap up with for my presentation part of this video today is what makes people who disagree with what MAGA is doing, What makes people who actually believe in these principles, what could make them join this group? People who've never had the time or money to travel outside their hometown can be sucked into this group even when they don't agree with it, because they don't know anybody else. And it's dangerous to isolate yourself like that in those communities. So they could get sucked into it. People who had to rely on MAGA people for jobs, income, or financial support. People who had to rely on MAGA people for jobs, income, or financial support can get sucked into this cult even though they don't agree with it, because they rely on it to survive. People who for their whole life have been made to fear hell and believe that their pastor or father understands how to get to heaven better than they do. Those people could not believe in what MAGA is doing and still get sucked into it, because they believe that the people that they believe have authority over them know better than they do. And so they submit their own free will to serve the cult, because they believe that if they don't, they're going to go to hell. The last group of people that I have here are people who've grown up around a peer group who are MAGA, and they're afraid of losing them. Some people can grow up and begin to see the hypocrisy and the evil in what MAGA is doing, but their entire peer group is MAGA, and they're afraid of what will happen if they start standing up for these principles in front of that peer group. And that's why I say, who are you afraid to be a good person in front of, and why? Because a good person does not always live up to these principles, but they try to, and when they fall short, they tell the truth about it. They don't hide from it. They're not embarrassed by it, because they love truth enough to be honest and say, I'll do better next time. I was wrong. I don't want to be that way. Let me try it again. Tomorrow I'm going to do better. Those are good people. You can't stand up for this in MAGA, or you will be attacked. So if you're in MAGA, who are you afraid to be a good person in front of, and why? So that's everything that I had to talk about today. Now I'm going to get my workout in, watch some videos, react to anything you guys want to talk about in the chat, to some of the things I'm seeing on videos, and then we'll wrap up at the end. All right, let's get into this workout.
Well, I got another question about the government shutdown. The ACA premiums have already gone up. They're set for the year. Democrats, we appreciate the effort, but isn't it time to reopen the government?
I mean, who's in charge of the government?
Republican, but you still need those 8 Democrat votes to vote.
Yeah, because of the filibuster they now want to get rid of, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I spent years saying.
But anyway, I don't care who's responsible for it. It's a bipartisan. It's going to take a bipartisan effort. But isn't it time to reopen the government?
Yeah, of course it's time to reopen the government. But the Republicans in charge of the government. You cannot
But
have.
you still need those 8 Democratic votes.
But you cannot have a political system that always relies on only the Democratic Party being the responsible party. You just can't. America cannot survive. We've created. It's like having toddlers, right? The Republican Party are a bunch of toddlers, and everyone else has to be the adults in the room, and that cannot continue.
Alright, let's see what's up with this video. But are we just not going to mention the Epstein files? Like, this is how good MAGA is at the propaganda. We're talking about the government shutdown. 2 Democrats, Charlemagne and Mehdi Hassan.
That cannot continue indefinitely.
2 Democrats talking about the government shutdown, and neither one of them has mentioned the Epstein files. And the leaks right now from the FBI and the DOJ are that the Epstein files are worse for Trump than anyone can imagine. But this is how good they are at spreading self-delusion through our society. Both of these guys know about the Epstein files. Both of them are liberal. Both of them know that that's ultimately why the government is shut down, and neither of them mentions it.
And at some point, I'm glad Democrats have drawn a line, even with Schumer and Jeffries, where they're saying, you know what, it's up to Republicans to govern responsibly. It's up to Republicans to stick to their pledges.
But we know they can't.
But there you go, that's the problem.
But we know they can't.
The reason I say it, with the greatest respect, my friend, you're part of the problem. You can't say we know they can't, because that immediately gives Republicans the power to put the entire American democracy, American government, American economy only in the hands of one party should have to deal with it.
I agree, but we know Republicans aren't going to do the right thing. Republicans do. You know, they talk about cutting SNAP benefits. People got child care to pay, light bill, car notes. We need groceries. Like, we need the Democrats to say, okay, you know y'all not going to give us no concessions. We fought the good fight. We're going to vote to reopen the government.
The problem with that argument is, if you're worried about human suffering, the counter-argument is that reopening the government on Republican terms increases human suffering.
Yes, but the election's in 2026. So now you can say Republicans are responsible for your human suffering. Republicans are the reason you got high health care. So let's change this in 2026.
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but a lot of the stuff that Trump did in the big, beautiful bill, all the horrific stuff, they very smartly delayed that till after the midterms kick in.
The premiums already kicked in.
The premiums, a lot of the pain. So look, there's a strategic argument for doing what you're saying. I don't believe, I've been around long enough to know that this always ends with the Republicans benefiting and Democrats rolling over, and I'm glad to see Democrats not rolling over. Now,
I'm with you, but it's hard to see all this human suffering.
I agree with human suffering cuts both ways.
These food banks are so, the lines of the food banks are so long.
100%.
You know, we got government workers calling up here every day.
But the fact that you and I are talking about Democrats and not Donald Trump starving Americans and saying, he said at the weekend, he goes, a court, let's just be very clear, a court has said he must release the funds to pay for SNAP. And he said, I'm not going to do it. That should be the conversation. It's not should Democrats open the government, it's should Donald Trump follow the law.
Well, no, I'm just saying the government should be reopened. We just know it takes a bipartisan effort to do it. Yes, Republicans are the main issue here, but we can't act like it, 8 Democrats.
It'd be interesting to see if they get rid. He's now pushing for the filibuster nuking. It'd be interesting to see if they get rid of that filibuster, because of course, in the long run, that will help Democrats.
They had a good night last night. Reopen the government. Let's reopen the government. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you, but I'm saying it's Republicans who have to reopen the government.
It's a bipartisan effort.
I mean, they control the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, the White House.
Nobody's going to say abstain. Nobody's going to say abstain. Two liberals, nobody's going to say abstain.
Yeah.
I'm saying give people their money.
I'm saying there's a cost. I'm saying there's a cost to doing it.
And you know where it's kind of disingenuous is if by some chance Republicans do make concessions, aren't you going to give the Democrats credit?
In what?
If the Democrats make concessions on health care.
If the Democrats or Republicans.
If Republicans make concessions on health care,
yes.
Aren't you going to give the Democrats credit?
Yes.
So you got to give them the same credit now with the government being shut down.
Yes, that they have a role to play. Yes. But it's about. But the problem is, whose responsibility is it? That's the point. I don't think. Again, it goes back to my thing. I can't treat Republicans like children and toddlers. I don't think American democracy can survive.
Or crackheads.
Two-party system, and one of the two parties is completely we just don't take seriously. They can do whatever the hell they want. They can break any law, ignore any law, shut down any government program, end USAID. And again, the costs of reopening the government, the costs of conceding on the Medicaid cuts, and all of that stuff. Your point is, well, next year they can point in the midterms. But what about the suffering on that front till the midterms? What about the people who are going to lose health care?
I agree with that, but man, that's one high bill to pay as opposed to not being able to pay your rent, not being able to pay your car note, not being able to pay your child care. Even if you have health care, now you still can't pay that because you're not making any money.
I agree, it's a horrific situation. It's why I wish people had not re-elected Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But we are where we are. We've got Donald Trump for another 3 years minimum, maybe longer, as you and I fear.
And Democrats have to be the adults in the room. Because of that reason. They just have to, man. I know we don't want him to be. It shouldn't be like that, but it is.
No, but it isn't. Because I think you can. We have to change the way we talk about politics, the way we organize, the way the media covers this stuff. Because the minute you do this, let me just give you, let's say they open the government tomorrow. This is 8 Democrats, fill in or whatever. They come in, government open up. What precedent does that set? It just means that Republicans will keep doing this again and again, knowing you've got 3 more years of pain and suffering.
Yes, but hopefully, with the next, year, you can say, look at your health care benefits. Your health care benefits are high as hell. It's because of Republicans. 2026, y'all need to change this.
So the Republican Party runs a completely opposite manual when they're in opposition. They do everything they can, obviously, to not make government work. They don't care if people are starving and can't pay their rent. But then they electorally benefit from that. Right? They benefit from saying, the government didn't work, things didn't get through. And Democrats, unfortunately, I think are going to have to use that playbook, as cynical and ruthless as it has to be.
Jesus Christ.
I don't see another alternative. You tell me what the alternative is. You're hoping that the government opens up and things go back to normal, whatever normal is, and then people blame the Republicans. I would see it.
Yeah, I would rather the government be open, people be getting paid, and we're having these arguments about healthcare and Republicans fucking shit up without people having to miss paychecks.
But if the government's opened up, this Democratic argument, I'm not Democrat, the Democratic Party argument is, if the government's opened up, you're going to have huge costs in the healthcare world.
Once again, that's one bill, as opposed to people not getting no checks to pay lights, rent, daycare, like no money coming in.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
It's an effed up situation in this country.
Yeah.
We should. By the way, can I just point this out to people who are listening and watching? I'm from the UK. I'm an immigrant to the US. No other country functions like this. There's no other Western democracy that has government shutdowns. There's no other Western democracy that has debt ceilings. This is all artificial.
Again, people who have never traveled, who haven't had the money to travel, who haven't had the resources to travel, who've never been able to leave their hometown, they don't understand this. But it's crucial.
Crap that's in our system that needs to be fixed. Again, when the Democrats are in office, they need to fix the stuff so that we don't have this constant cycle of this nonsense. The people are like, this is why people hate politics, to go back to what I said at the start.
So, it's really good for me personally to see Mehdi Hassan calling out Charlemagne for this narrative. And the reason as to why is because, like I said at the beginning of the video, Charlemagne is usually on point when it comes to being on the right side of history from a political standpoint. He usually is on the right side of history. But his hypocrisy really kind of shines through here, simply because just if we just do a little bit of looking back and we take a look at some of the quotes that it is that Charlemagne has said about the Democratic Party, let me show you guys some of those quotes. So, one of the things that he said is he discussed the Democrats being late to the fight, saying many things should have been said 2 or 3 years ago. This is the quote: "My biggest problem with Democrats is everything they're saying now, you should have been saying 2 or 3 years ago." So what he's talking about is the messaging that it is that the Democratic Party are doing, they should have been doing it 2 or 3 years ago. So now when Donald Trump is weaponizing the government shutdown and using it and leveraging it to hurt the American people, you've got someone like Charlemagne who's basically turning around and saying, all right guys, look, it's been enough, like we just need to go ahead and get things opened up again. People are losing paychecks, this, that, the other. But the reason behind why the Democrats aren't giving in is because they're trying to protect Americans' healthcare. See, Donald Trump and Republicans have absolutely no problem.
Yes, but again, we're just gonna not mention the Epstein files. We're just not gonna mention the Epstein files. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is self-delusion. 3 liberals talking about the government shutdown. For 10 minutes, nobody has said Epstein files. And the leaks coming out of the DOJ and FBI are that they're worse for Trump than Republicans can even imagine.
Using the American people as collateral damage in getting their agenda forward, but Charlemagne doesn't want the Democrats to do the exact same thing. But what you understand is this: Democrats aren't trying to use the American people as collateral. They're actually trying to save and help the American people long term, because healthcare is something that is a major problem throughout the United States of America. Another quote that it is that Charlemagne said, he accused the Democrats of inaction and having leadership problems. Here's the quote: "Per usual, the party of inaction, the Democrats, they never talk about nothing and they do nothing." So, what my question to Charlemagne would be is this: Charlemagne, which one is it? What do you want? Do you want the Democrats to take action?
Yep.
Do you want them to arrive to the fight on time? Or do you want them to just give up and give in to Donald Trump's demands and allow the Republicans and MAGA to do their agenda and have what it is that they want to be able to go through? Which one is it? Because you can't have your cake and eat it. A saying that we say here in the UK, you can't have your cake and eat it. You have to decide which one it is that you want. Now look, I know it's probably easy for me to say this as a Brit who's living not in the United States of America. Obviously our healthcare system is completely different. But one thing that I can say is this: as someone who leans more to the left, it's actually good to see from the outside looking in, the Democrats actually bringing the fight to MAGA, to Republicans, and to Donald Trump. It's actually good to see. And I don't know fully in total. You know, there's been a bit of polling, and I believe that the American people are leaning more towards blaming the Republicans for it, because Donald Trump, in the quote himself, he said that if the president, you know, controls all the branches of government, well, it's down to that individual to get the government opened up. But now that he is in the driving seat, the energy's changed. The energy has changed. Now, look, I don't know what the solution is here, but all I'm going to say is this: it is really good to see the Democrats finally putting up a bit of a fight. I hope the fight will continue until some form of resolution can be met and can be arranged and solved from a healthcare standpoint. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this exchange between Mehdi Hassan and Charlamagne the God on the Breakfast Club. If you guys want to see the full clip, I'll leave the link in.
This is amazing. This is amazing.
This world, this is the terrible.
This is what a free press, this is what a real man standing up to propaganda looks like. I hope you can read the captions. Let me see if I can see on my monitor. If you can see the captions. I might not be able to play this if the captions aren't readable.
The reason of this world is that this is the terror organization.
Man. Okay, bear with me. This is a video of a Chinese journalist confronting an Israeli military official. And it is a masterclass. This is how, if we had a true free press here, they would question Donald Trump and his representatives this way.
The reason of this war is that this is the terror organization Hamas that's still holding our hostages. So the replace the UN, you suggest, is sound very smart between countries. What we need to do about the terror organization?
My answer is very clear.
Yeah.
Your military people should shoot the terrorists, not the children, not the women. We shoot the children and the women, and you lack legitimacy to carry out any actions in that reason. For instance, and when we have the laws, get in the bank, they rob the bank, they use the staff and the customer as a human shield. You're a policeman. If you do not kill the staff, bank staff, and the customer, you cannot catch the robbers. How can you do? Do you think you should kill the customer and the staff first?
We really do all what we can not to hurt the citizens.
To kill more than 70,000 civilians.
No,
There are more than the terrorists.
That's not fact, right.
Okay.
Really?
The fact is not decided by you. The facts decided by the international community. It's not decided by your government. Your government have no legitimacy and the right to decide or defend what is fact. Okay.
The terror attack, the terror organization, what is the solution in your way of...
My solution is that go to the UN, work with the UN, and agree the two-state solution to establish a state of Palestine. Then you have two states, and you can work together with the Palestinians together to fight against terrorists. If you do not work with the Palestinians together, you can never win the war over terrorism.
But this specific war will end when the terror organization will release all our hostages and will give up his weapon, because we can't stop the war as long as we have the hostages.
No, this kind of propaganda have too many. No one believes it.
No one believes it.
Too many.
Too much propaganda.
Too much.
No one believes it.
Except a few Israelis.
Except a few Israelis.
Bucket
Same
sale
thing.
is back at MAGA.
Same thing with MAGA's fire hose of falsehoods. Same thing with MAGA's 10,000 lies. Self-delusion. Nobody believes it. Nobody believes it, not even the people saying it. This is like a drug epidemic. They know they're high. They know they're being self-delusional, but they've given up their free will to serve a cult or a gang. Let's see, what else we want to watch here? Let's see. Okay, watch this confrontation that Don Lemon has with this MAGA guy. This is who these people are. This guy doesn't even want to be the way he is. He is trapped under the delusion of a cult, and you can see how he humiliates himself. But it doesn't change his mind because he's an addict getting high. Watch how insane this is. But in the cult of MAGA, you can call cruelty strength. You can call self-delusion intelligence. Watch this idiot.
Are you?
Don Lemon.
You're a fucking moron.
Thank you. So are you.
So you've never heard anything I've had to say, and I've heard a whole bunch of what you've
I'm glad you watch me.
No, I don't.
You said you don't watch me, but yet you know who I am.
CNN, MSNBC, we're full of shit. Every once in a while, I'd
What do
see
you watch?
I watch all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, but why do you say CNN and MSNBC full of shit?
Because they lie. They lie about genocide. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
obvious what it was on about October 17th.
That it was genocide?
Yeah.
You said they lied about genocide, that it wasn't genocide. I thought you were saying that it wasn't genocide.
No. They lied that it was. Yeah, they lied that it wasn't. That's
What
why I
they
said
said.
you're a moron to begin with.
Why would you call me a moron?
Because you
are a right-wing
because you're
crazy.
big and think that you're something, man.
I'm supposed to not think that I'm anything? What are you talking about?
You're welcome to think that you're something, but
And what do you think you are?
Oh, I'm just me.
Why would you insult people like that?
It's not an
I wouldn't
insult.
dare ever walk up to someone on the street and call them an idiot, not unless I had like a terrible.
And let's be real, Don Lemon would dog walk this gravy seal, to put it nicely. Don Lemon would rub his face in the mud. I'm biting my tongue. This is the self-delusion. In his house, he thinks that he thinks it's the other way around. Not really, but that's what he deludes himself into believing. Face to face, it's obvious. It's obvious. Don Lemon is like, what? What? And he's got nothing because he's ashamed of what he even stands for. He doesn't have any of his gang members around to make him feel strong. And he realizes that one-on-one, his cult has not prepared him to face a man. And so he shrinks and he cowers and he stumbles, and it's just pathetic. Like Donald Trump, like Mike Johnson, like Lindsey Graham, like Pete Hegseth, like Kash Patel.
Self-respect, and
It's
I wanted
pathetic.
to like lash out at someone.
And nobody believes them. This dude, you know how much he talks about how tough he is online. Nobody believes y'all. Nobody believes you. This guy will like, somebody else like him's comment, and two other losers like him, they'll like each other's comment, they'll like gang up like some hyenas, but they all know who's bitch made.
Because I felt bad about myself, or that I didn't accomplish enough. I would never walk up to someone and belittle them unless there was something that's wrong with me that I need some therapy about. Because you didn't accomplish much with your life doesn't mean that you have to insult me.
To your
You
face.
said, I
To
know
your
you,
face.
And I said I'm down, and you said yes, you're a moron. You
did
get
say
clipped all
that.
the time, and I don't watch you. But that doesn't make sense because you say I get clipped all the time, so you must watch me. So you're not making any sense.
Is that not making any sense?
No, because then you wouldn't know who I am if you didn't watch me. Yep.
Look what a weak little spineless bitch they are face to face. And you don't have to be this way, my guy. You just have to stand up for what you actually want for yourself. But you're so polluted and warped by the experience of living in opposition to what you want for yourself that this is what you turn into. And it's going to take some hard work to fix. But you can't fix it by staying an addict of self-delusion and lies and weakness and cruelty. and just overall bitch-madeness.
You know.
Know what?
Yeah, you know who I am.
Yeah.
And you watch the clips.
Yeah.
And then they play dumb. Then he admits that everything he says in the beginning was untrue, and he just thinks it's funny because he doesn't care what's true. He cares about showing obedience and loyalty to the gang that rewards him with self-delusion.
In order to know their nonsense, it means you would have to watch them.
Okay, so what?
Okay, but you're saying you don't.
So the whole thing you said in the beginning of the video is, I don't watch your videos.
You have an issue that you have to insult other people in order to feel better about yourself. Hold on. All you know about me is what you see, a clip of me that somebody else put up or that I put up.
Look at the body language. Don Lemon is dominating this man. He's dominating him. And this man has nothing to say where he wanted to. He initiated this confrontation, okay? He started it because he was high on self-delusion and he forgot, or he thought his self-delusion about who Don Lemon was accurate, because that's how potent the drug is. But then you see what happens.
And so you don't really watch. If you don't really watch me, you don't know me.
Don,
Anyway, nice to meet you.
go find the library.
So gross, man. So gross. So shameless. So weak. So cruel. So unnecessary. And again, does a real man care if a bitch-made MFer is cruel to them? No. We don't care, except for good people will feel sorry for that man because you know that they're sick. You know that he looks the way he does and acts the way he does because he has been sucked into this cult that has ravaged him. And nobody's shown him a bridge out of it. Nobody's held a lantern to light the path for him to get out of it. So it's not that good men are triggered or even really care, other than if you're spreading this to other young men who don't know any better and you're taking their free will through everything we talked about in the beginning of the video, that's like spreading toxic garbage in the park. Yeah, good men are going to have a problem with that. If I see you hurting yourself because you're addicted to this BS and your life is going, you're miserable in a basement, can't find any romance, don't have any real friends, don't have any real strength or knowledge, I'm going to feel pity for that person. I'm going to want to help that person. All right, we're going to watch a little bit of Dean debating while we finish set 2 of our exercises, and then we'll see y'all tomorrow.
So you're telling me that I should believe you, but I shouldn't believe when the Speaker of the House is up there telling me that you guys want to give free healthcare to illegal immigrants.
I'm telling you that you should believe the facts. If you go on Google and you type in the Personal Work Order and Responsibility Act of 1996, okay, you could read legislation that was passed by both chambers of Congress and signed into law that strictly limits and prevents non-residents and non-citizens from accessing federal forms of welfare benefits, including but not limited to health care of the likes of Medicaid or Medicare. Okay? I'm not telling you to believe me over him. I'm telling you to believe the facts over fiction.
But they don't care what's
So
true.
I'm gonna support Trump. I mean, he's all for crypto. I'm all for crypto. He's gonna pump the share of the stock market, pump the share of the crypto market. He gave all of us an opportunity to buy in to stocks and crypto. He put it all on sale for us to buy. And the Democrats complained about it. You guys have the government shut down.
No mention of Epstein.
Because you guys have a bunch of bullshit. You guys want
no
to
mention
pass
of Epstein.
Trash.
Oh yeah.
$200 billion for immigrants to get healthcare is a joke.
Oh yeah.
That is a joke.
So do you know what the Personal Work Order and Responsibility Act is?
I do not.
Of course you don't, because you're fucking uneducated, Victor. Usually, for whatever reason, the most uneducated people have the biggest feelings in American politics. But to tell you...
The most educated people are the most indoctrinated people. That's why you guys are all Democrats.
So you think that the most educated people are Democrats?
That is true. The most educated people are Democrats.
Dude.
You guys are all indoctrinated. Keep laughing. It's the truth.
Wait, indoctrinated indoctrinated.
You guys are all indoctrinated.
Indoctrinated into facts, reason, and logic?
No, indoctrinated to the school system's bullshit.
Dude, the school system's bullshit. Okay. Let me tell you something I learned in school, and then I want you to critique it. So last week, okay, I was sitting down in my big liberal class, okay, at CU Boulder. That's right, one of the most liberal campuses on America. Okay, Democratic stronghold. Okay, and the professor looked at me and he told me, right, that Donald Trump is an unprecedented threat to the American democracy and the American Constitution, and he argued that it's because Donald Trump doesn't care about the Constitution and wants to be a all-powerful leader that rewrites the rules compared to a president that plays by him. Okay, and the evidence that the professor gave me was damning. Okay, and this is the evidence that I want you to dispute. He brought up the fact, right, that in December of 2022, Donald Trump went on Truth Social, and he said, well, we should terminate all the rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Real quote, by the way. And then on day one, he passed Executive Order number 14160 that infringed on the 14th Amendment, attempted to take birthright citizenship away from the children of undocumented immigrants born on American soil, even though they've had that right since 1868. Or, like a month ago, when he said that, quote-unquote, we're taking your free speech away, when he tried to ban the burning of the American flag, even though the Supreme Court ruled that was protected under symbolic speech per the First Amendment in the 1980s, or when he was saying that there's ways he could run for a third term. That is an express attack on the 22nd Amendment, considering the fact that the 22nd Amendment says any president can only serve 2 terms, or when he was declaring war on American cities. Once again, that's what he said, and he sent the National Guard to cities like Memphis, Chicago, Portland, so on and so forth. And then we had multiple federal judges rule that this was illegal because he was doing so without sufficient reason, therefore being in violation of the 10th Amendment. And he was on Air Force One last week, and he said, well, if he wanted to, he could declare an insurrection, right? Unlike the insurrection that he caused in the Capitol in J6, but I digress, that he could declare an insurrection, and he could send the Marines, the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, and so on and so forth into American cities, and nobody could stop him, including the courts. Don't you think that this would amount, right, to a wannabe authoritarian?
I don't think so at all.
Because I'm indoctrinated, and you're the reasonable, smart one. Okay, you're the one that knows the real facts. Go ahead and dispute my fake facts.
Well, I can see reality. I mean, I can see reality. I mean, what I would say is you guys using the Civil Rights Act for the whole trans, stuff, and then pushing the whole trans narrative in children's classrooms.
Okay, Dean just disproved everything that he said. He came out with 5 lies. Dean disproved all of them. They don't care. They do not care. He goes on to the next lie. And Dean and these other people arguing with them don't understand that they don't even believe what they're saying. These are parrots repeating what they've been trained to say for what they will get in exchange for saying it. So Dean's going to keep just obliterating every lie that he tells, but it's never going to make a difference because he's not addressing the root cause. So what Dean is doing here is if you go and debate a crackhead on the street corner. How do you win that debate? While they're high. Okay, while they're high. How do you win that debate?
In children's
No, because I'm laughing so hard. Brother, I just gave you an argument that Donald Trump is American democracy and the Constitution, right? And I brought up how he's launched an attack on the First Amendment, launched an attack on the 14th Amendment, the 10th Amendment, and the 22nd Amendment, and then you're like, oh, Dean, you're so wrong and indoctrinated.
Because it's common sense.
And then your counter-argument is bringing up trans people?
No, because you're trying to say that what he's doing is a joke. I mean, you're saying he's breaking all these amendments, but it's common sense that he has to. I mean, we have mass immigration.
Okay, it's common sense that he has to break these amendments. The reply to this should be, okay, then a Democratic president can just take away the Second Amendment. Right? He has to take away these amendments. So Barack Obama, President AOC in the future, can be we have to take away the Second Amendment. And what's this little bitch boy going to say then? You can tell who they are when their rules only apply to themselves and not the other team. So he's Donald Trump has to get rid of constitutional amendments. Can a Democratic president just get rid of the Second Amendment? But y'all don't care about what's true.
He needs to send the the National Guard into those cities. That makes 100% sense. Yes.
How is a National Guard combating quote-unquote mass immigration in these cities?
Because you're saying that he's sending the troops to the cities, right?
Yeah, and what does that have to do with immigration?
Because he was sending a lot of ICE agents, right?
ICE is not National Guard, right? You just said because of mass immigration, he's sending the National Guard into these cities.
Oh, my bad. I mean, he's sending the ICE agents.
Oh.
Which, that was a good thing that you guys were complaining
So then
about.
you're definitely not responding to what my argument was.
Okay. No, and I agree that those cities that
by the way,
have the high violent
what
crimes.
you just said, by the way, is that it's okay for Donald Trump to infringe on the supreme law of the land, the Constitution. So therefore, right, it's okay for somebody to infringe on a federal misdemeanor crime by entering into America with use of undocumented means, right? Like obviously, right, the
If you come into America illegally,
than a federal misdemeanor.
that's a legal crime.
Right, just like it's illegal for Trump to infringe on the Constitution, but you don't care, so why should I?
So you're saying people should just come in here, just come to America?
I'm saying if you don't
but I have
care
common
about
sense.
infringing on the Constitution, then why should I care about an immigrant infringing on federal law? It's
Because
hypocritical for you to suggest that it's like rules for thee but not for me, right? It's hypocritical for you to suggest that you're like pro law and order in one sense, but then against law and order in another sense. It's hypocritical for you to suggest that we need to absolutely destroy the American economy, and we need to kidnap naked children and force them into the backs of U-Haul vans, reduce our GDP by $1.1 through $1.7 trillion per year. Meanwhile, you don't care that Donald Trump is a 34-count felon, and you don't care that he's infringed on the Constitution 5 times in the last 8 months. That is hypocrisy 101. And let me guess, instead of actually addressing the lead on the bone here, instead of actually responding to the argument that I'm giving you, you're just going to say, but trans people again.
No, I'm not going to say about trans people again. I'm saying that everything he's doing is good for the country. You know,
Then it's good to break the law.
You got a vape or what?
Nope, it's an anxiety pin, buddy. So then you're saying it's going to break the law, right? Because he's broken.
Oh man, that's a good discussion. No, it's not okay. It's not okay to break the law.
Okay,
but
so if it's not good to break the law, then it's not true that everything that Donald Trump is doing is good for the country. Considering a lot of the things that he's done have been illegal, right? Like for the most part, the constitutional infringements that I just listed.
Yeah, I understand, but you gotta understand when the Constitution was written, it was a completely different time. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you guys using.
Now, if Dean doesn't go, okay, it was a completely different time, so we can just get rid of the Second Amendment. What are you doing, Dean? That's the only answer. They understand the Second Amendment, so they know what the truth is, but he's high on self-delusion, so he's ignoring the truth. You can pour cold water on an addict's head when you're saying that Donald Trump can just get rid of the Constitution because it's good for the country. So when we have President AOC, she can just get rid of the Second Amendment and say it's good for the country, right? And then he's like, I hope, Dean, I haven't watched this. I'm reacting in real time. But they never do. Just like he hasn't mentioned Epstein. Like, there's a lot of people doing good work in the liberal community, but they're missing the big picture. They're missing the point. They are falling into MAGA strategy every single day. And though they're right, though they're honest, though they're accurate, though they think what they're doing is good, they are playing right into the hands of MAGA leadership by taking these lies at face value, by pretending that addicts even care what is true when they obviously do not care what is true. They will change their beliefs 180 degrees from one day to the next if they're told to, because they do that in exchange for what the cult gives them.
The Civil Rights Act for the whole trans thing, right? It makes no sense, but you guys did it.
So I was actually right in the sense where I finished an argument there to demonstrate your hypocrisy, and then I was like, so you're actually not going to respond to what I'm saying, and you're just going to go about trans people, and you did.
Yeah, he did.
No.
Oh, yeah.
You did the thing.
Yeah, you did the thing, you little
I
bitch.
actually cannot respond to the argument that you just
Fucking
gave me. That proves I'm a
morons,
hypocrite.
man.
So
They're
I'm
just
just going
liars.
to talk about trans people.
No, because it just backfires to the argument.
Because he's
You
in
say
the
doing
closet.
this, and I give you a
Because
valid
closeted
reason
people
as to
can't
why
let it
you're a
go.
joke.
What? Wait, so you're saying that you think a counter-argument to me being able to point out your hypocrisy by saying in one breath that it's actually good for the president to violate the Constitution, yet in another breath...
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yet in another
Then we can
breath...
take away the Second
A
Amendment.
completely different time than when the Constitution was written.
Then we can take away the Second Amendment.
We got mass immigration.
So the Constitution is what? A living, breathing document.
Yes.
Do you think that you have a right to free speech?
I have a right to free speech. I'm in America.
And what gives you that right to free
The
speech?
First Amendment, bitch.
The right to free speech.
You fucking
What gives you
idiot.
that right?
They're fucking idiots,
My
man.
rights.
Where does that right come from?
The First
Why do you
Amendment,
have
the
that right in
Constitution.
America?
From the Constitution.
Oh, but I thought you just said the Constitution is from a completely different era and you don't really care about it.
Second Amendment time.
I never said that.
You
We
just...
never say that.
You fucking
I'm
bitch.
saying that
The
you
Constitution was
fucking
written so
bitches.
long ago that you think it's like good to infringe on it. So would it be like
I didn't say
take away your freedom of speech?
I'm saying all that. I'm saying that you can't.
Is this guy
You can't
fucking gaslighting me right now?
No,
He's
you
high
can't
on
fully
self-delusion,
go
bro.
with
This
the
motherfucker's gaslighting me.
I'm not gaslighting you at all.
You're
He's
totally
high
gaslighting
on
me.
self-delusion.
I'm not gaslighting you whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry if you feel like I'm gaslighting you. Do you feel like you're getting roasted or something, my man?
I feel like
Chill,
you're
my
trying to
man.
gaslight me. You're trying to.
I'm not trying to gaslight.
No, he feels like he's arguing with a crackhead on the corner, and the crackhead's giggling like a hyena because you have a person taking them at face value who's like, are you even a human? Like, you're just saying you didn't say what you just said 30 seconds ago. And the crackhead's like, ha ha ha, triggered you.
Like whatsoever, my man.
Well, then take accountability for the fact that you said that you don't care about the Constitution. You think it's good for the president to infringe.
I never once said that. I just said that.
Yeah, okay, then you are gaslighting.
You were in modern day. No.
You understand that there's
I
people
never.
like watching this conversation, right? You understand that there's
100%, yeah.
people that can account for the fact that
We can rewind it back. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's not embarrassed about lying his ass off. Doesn't care at all.
you did indeed say that you do not care that Donald Trump is infringing on the Constitution. In fact, you think it is quote unquote good.
Yeah, it's good because the Constitution was written. What?
God.
What are you slapping the table for, my man? The things I'm.
They're too high on ignorance to even follow a two-layer chain of logic. They're too high to care.
Yeah, you feeling good, my man?
So he's repeating it.
I'm not repeating. I never said what you said. I said that we're in
Bro.
modern days, and there is parts of the Constitution that have to be broken in order to get things done.
Okay, so what parts?
So we can take away the First Amendment, we can take away the Second Amendment, take away your right to own guns, your right to free speech. That's what he's saying. But then when Dean says that's what you're saying, he's like, no. But if the president can violate the Constitution, that is what you're saying. But they don't care what's true, Dean. They don't care what's true. They're just here to take up your time. That's it. They're here to get the attention that nobody in their family will give them.
I mean, the parts that you explained.
So which
You
one?
know, the immigrants should not be able to come over here and have kids. That's crazy.
Immigrants shouldn't be able to have kids in America? Then Donald Trump wouldn't have been born.
I mean, legal immigrants.
Donald Trump's mother was an immigrant. You fucking dumbass.
So are my parents. Both of my parents are immigrants.
You should have been born?
Legal immigrants.
Oh,
my man.
Undocumented immigrants shouldn't be able to have kids on Americans allowed.
There you go. People should not come over here and just be able to have kids. That's common sense.
That's how this country started.
Yes, no. Let's, so...
I mean, back in
would
the
you
day,
argue- Wait, what would you argue, just to make it clear here? Would you, say that, there should be, free and easy access to abortion all 9 months of pregnancy in all 50 states to,
No.
Wait, wouldn't that prevent immigrants from having kids?
Wait, what?
Oh, now there's a conflict. That
makes no sense.
Now there's a conflict.
That's a stupid
on one
argument,
hand, you have
Dean. That's a
racism.
stupid
On
argument.
the other hand, you have misogyny. Oh, it's like, what happens when the racism and the misogyny start contradicting one another?
Dean's losing the plot, man.
Immigrants shouldn't be able to have kids.
Losing the plot.
Okay, well, I mean, we know when individuals have access to abortion, right? They're more likely to terminate unwanted pregnancies, therefore less likely to have children, right? Just because of the natural propensity.
Or they should come to the country illegally.
And then on the other end, you got your misogyny where you're women having access to healthcare? No! So, it's how do we consolidate, how do we figure out this issue? Do you want to be racist and say that immigrants should have kids, or do you want to be misogynistic and say women should have access to healthcare? Which one?
They shouldn't be here in the first place. That's it.
Okay, so
Common sense, right?
So you support mass deportation?
Hypocrite.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, well, since you're such like an in tune with reality, common sense guy, I want you to name one specific, clear way that mass deportation materially benefits this country.
I mean, tons of them are getting healthcare, right?
No.
Immigrants don't get health care from the federal level.
No.
From the federal level. It's not
That's
true.
a lie.
It's illegal. The undocumented immigrants can't qualify for federal Medicaid, can't qualify for federal Medicare, but they actually do pay $100 billion per year in taxes and contribute 1.1 through 1.7 trillion dollars to the GDP.
But this kid doesn't care what's true. He doesn't care what's true, Dean.
So you're telling me that the Speaker of the House was lying when he said that
Wait, the guy who said release the Epstein files and the guy who's now saying Epstein who is lying? You think that guy would be lying?
$290 billion for healthcare for illegal
Fucking
immigrants?
idiots.
So that guy was lying, right?
Oh, totally, unless you want to be able to give evidence that he was telling the truth.
So you're telling me that I should believe you, but I shouldn't believe when the Speaker of the House is up there telling me that you guys want to give free healthcare to illegal immigrants, that you guys want to, fund LGBT whole narrative bullshit in other countries. That's a joke, man.
I'm telling you.
You gonna sit here and try and convince me that that's not a joke?
I'm telling you that you should believe the facts.
This dude went along with tax breaks to billionaires and corporations and Trump's family that are in the billions and hundreds of billions of dollars, and he's caught up on a few $1 million of LGBT funding for like mental health and stuff like that. That is how delusional these motherfuckers are. And he doesn't know any better, and Dean is missing the point. Dean should be saying, why are you saying all this bullshit you don't even believe for a cult? And he'd be like, what do you mean I do believe it? And he'd be like, no you don't. I've proven everything you said wrong, and you don't care at all, bro. That's not the issue. The real issue is your daddy issues that make you afraid to be a good person in front of your peer group. Whatever it is in your life that makes you afraid to live up to liberty, truth, and love around your peer group, that's what we're really arguing about, man. I've disproved everything you've said here, and none of it made a difference with you. That's because you don't believe what you're saying. You don't even know what you're saying. You've been trained like a parrot to repeat things. And every time you repeat this thing you memorized, you think that that's the same thing as intelligence. And it's the opposite. But Dean's missing the point. All these liberals are missing the point. It's not what they're saying, it's why they're saying it.
I mean, if you go on Google and you type in the Personal Work Order and Responsibility Act of 1996, okay, you could read legislation.
He doesn't
that was
care.
passed by both chambers
He
of
does
Congress
not
and signed
care,
into law
bro. He
that
doesn't
strictly
care.
limits and prevents non-residents and non-citizens.
He doesn't
from
care,
accessing
Dean.
Federal forms of welfare benefits, including but not limited to health care of the likes of Medicaid.
This kid's not even listening.
Okay, I'm
Not
telling
listening.
you to believe me over him.
He's just
I'm
going to
telling you
repeat
believe
another
the facts
parroted
of the
phrase. Here comes more propaganda.
So yeah, you're saying that you're speaking facts, and he's just up there saying these lies that we're not giving.
Yes, and I just gave evidence to prove it.
Where's the evidence at?
See?
The personal
Told you.
order and responsibility
He wasn't
act
listening.
That limits federal welfare benefits.
He was
from
not
being given
listening.
to undocumented immigrants.
Because he does not care,
He
bro.
said the government was shut on 6 votes
Epstein.
from the Democrats, right?
Epstein.
But the Democrats don't want to approve those votes because
Epstein.
they want to give $290 billion towards immigrant health care.
What a fucking idiot.
It's like millions and millions of dollars for a whole,
Nobody's going to say
gender
Epstein.
ideology, bullshit in other countries. And
Just say LGBTQ plus trans and everybody will be scared, right? Is that the
Yo,
goal?
triggered. Because you're in the closet. Because you're in the closet, bro.
Listen to yourself, dude. Okay.
Closeted
Look at what I'm saying. I'm like,
MAGA.
listen, no, just listen, Victor. Listen
Scared to
me.
be themselves.
this is what they said up there, though.
Victor.
He wants
if
to
you
dress
listen
as a girl and he's afraid to.
If you listen to Dean,
Or he
Dean
wouldn't give
will
a
say,
fuck like normal
"Boy, listen,
dudes. Normal men do not care about trans people. We want you to be yourself, because why the fuck would we care? Why would a real man care what you need to do to be happy? I don't care. As long as you're a good person. Only people who are in the closet care. Because they can't be themselves. And we all see you. We all see you. Nobody is fooled. Your family ain't even fooled.
Undocumented immigrants are not residents.
Just be yourself.
Citizens, therefore,
stop being a little bitch.
Legally speaking,
let people have their liberty.
All right?
Let people be themselves and you be yourself.
Mr. Trump's puppet, right? Trump, the guy that lied 30,000 times confirmed in his first term. Trump, the guy that lied and told the largest lie that any sitting president has ever told with his denial of the outcome of the 2020 election. And then his puppet, Mike Johnson, that is currently breaking the law, right? Obstructing the swearing in of Adelina Grahova, who is, who's pledged to be the last and final vote to force the release of the Epstein files. Right, and you listen to him contradict the laws in the books. You listen to him contradict what we know about reality, and you listen to him saying nonsense, which, by the way, you can't find any evidence for. It becomes incredibly clear to any rational mind that I'm right and he's wrong. Now, you could prove that he's right and I'm wrong by merely...
So this dude is getting dog walked, but he does not care. And he doesn't care because the whole reason he wanted to call in was to show other people in his gang his loyalty and obedience, and he wanted attention. They all need attention so badly. That's why a lot of them join MAGA. A lot of these young men are so starved for attention, they see MAGA as a place they could get it immediately and get delusions that they are things they are not. And so he doesn't care that he has made a fool of himself on this video, because what he came for was attention and obedience to his gang, and so he got what he came for. And Dean, you're missing the big picture, my friend. You are missing the root cause of the issue. You're debating a crackhead on the street, and you're taking what they're saying at face value. You're not understanding that they're high on crack. They're high on self-delusion.
Disputing my argument, which is the fact that there's laws on the books that prevent Medicaid and Medicare from being given to undocumented immigrants, and proving, with the use of evidence, that the Democrats will have and want to spend $200 billion on undocumented immigrants.
So you're telling me that that's a lie? That's crazy to me. I understand that you said those laws and you know all that, but to me that has been the whole argument. And hold on. I haven't heard any Democrats, speaking about it, other than, people like you on TikTok.
Do you want to give evidence for his claim? Or do you want to give evidence against Lynn? Because we're rational people here, Victor. We discuss things with evidence.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, so what's the evidence that we want to give like $200 billion to undocumented immigrants for healthcare? What's the evidence that I'm wrong when I say that that's illegal per the Personal Work Order and Responsibility Act? What's the evidence, buddy?
Well, I'm not saying I have evidence. What I said was that's what he said, and why I should believe you over him.
Okay, so you don't have any evidence.
So you're gonna tell me?
So I just want to clarify. What you're saying is that you don't have any evidence to believe that he's telling the truth.
I haven't looked into it, no. Okay, so because it's the party of common sense if you think about it.
So why do you believe him without any evidence? Are you just saying that you blindly believe anything a Republican says?
No, because everything Democrats say isn't real.
I didn't ask you about Democrats. I asked you about Republicans.
He just gave you evidence of what he said was real. He just gave you evidence, you little bitch.
Not anything, but I do believe that Democrats would do that because that is something that they would do.
So you're saying that you believe
100% that's something that they would do.
So you believe it.
This dude believes in the big bad wolf.
I have a question.
I know here in my state, California,
little bitch.
So receive free health care.
Little bitch.
Such a low standard of evidence.
Little hoe.
The standard of evidence that you accept being no evidence, as you said, you blindly follow and believe anything that MAGA says. Do you therefore also accept that Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll because there was enough evidence to convince support?
I don't believe that. You're talking about $1 million man going after something like that. That's a joke.
Yeah. So
$1 billion man. My bad. $1 billion man.
When there's a
he had women throwing themselves at him, and he's gonna go
No.
after something like that. It's a joke.
No. Wow. If you think Donald Trump has ever had women throw themselves at him, you are an incel. There is nobody who does well with women that believes any woman has ever thrown themselves at Donald Trump. Ever. No offense to Stormy Daniels, but he had to pay Stormy Daniels. He had to pay a Melania. That's incel shit. These kids think that if you con your way into millions of dollars, that women are going to throw themselves at you. No. That's why Elon Musk is miserable. That's why Donald Trump is miserable. They made all this money, and good women that they actually desire are detested by them. No high quality woman would ever go after Elon Musk or Donald Trump. These kids are delusional. I knew nothing about this kid with romance before he said that. When you say women are throwing themselves at Donald Trump, I know that you know nothing about females. You probably have zero experience with females, if you believe that.
There's enough evidence to convince a court in a unanimous jury of 9 you don't believe it, but when there's no evidence at all per your own admission, you do believe it. See, I think that you're a casebook example of bias, okay? And tribalism in politics and dogmatism too, okay? Wow, you're a textbook example, okay? We learn about people like you, right, in social and political philosophy courses in college, okay? It's interesting because what you're telling me, right, is that when a claim is made that disputes the side you disagree with and confirms that the side you agree with are the ones on the right side of history, the true and accurate common sense people, right, then you accept it with no evidence and you blindly follow it. But when it disputes the party that you believe in, right, and reaffirms a party that you don't believe in, right, such as the court that found Donald Trump guilty of raping E. Jean Carroll, then you don't believe it even though there's an insurmountable amount of evidence. Like, do you see the issue there? Do you see that that's obviously, like, bias, Victor?
I mean, put it this way. I'm going to say reality, right? I'm going to explain reality to you.
MAGA can never answer a straight question. They simply cannot do it because they're parrots programmed to repeat propaganda. They can't have a real conversation with you because there's nothing going on inside other than taking turns. You say something, I repeat propaganda. You say something, I repeat propaganda. This kid has no understanding of how much he showed the degeneracy and the ignorance and the dishonesty and the bitch-madeness of MAGA for 20 minutes. He has no conception. Does that bother him? No. Because he's high as hell on self-delusion. And after that verbal ass-whipping, he malfunctions and glitches when Dean's like, what do you say to me, basically disproving everything you've claimed? He glitches for a second and he's like, here comes some propaganda that I was taught to repeat like a parrot, and that will make me a good boy, and here we go.
But I'm from California, so I know things are different in California, but California is Democrat-ran state. Gavin Newsom.
Yes, saying Gavin Newsom definitely addressed...
3 years ago, I was working, in an immigrant job.
I think he's leaving now. I wouldn't doubt it if he just left. Oh, he's back. Victor's not done. Victor? He's broken. We broke Victor. We actually broke Victor. Victor's like actually fucking broken right now. This is great. I have a question, Victor.
They just stop. They just glitch out. And hopefully if there's a shred of integrity left inside that the cult hasn't completely stomped out of them, they will understand that Victor is not less of a human being than Dean. Victor has had bullshit poured into his brain by other ignorant people, whereas Dean has been educated. Victor can become educated. Victor can choose Victor can choose to stand for liberty, truth, and love in the same way that Victor wants those things for himself. And he can stop supporting a party that opposes everything he wants for himself, which makes him live in a constant state of hypocrisy or dishonesty, which by any philosophical code or religion brings about bad things. So MAGA, if you're wondering, why me, why me? Why do people think they're better than me? It's not that people think that they're better than you. People think that they're above being parrots, being footstools, being the little bitches to people y'all say are beta males. You tell us what beta male is, and that's Donald Trump. And then you kneel to that. You lie for that. You give up your free will for that. And because we love you and we love the truth, we can't lie to you. We're not going to be in your self-delusion. The only way to stop saying, why me? Why is everything terrible for me? Is you have to stop living against what you want for yourself. Is that easy and is that hard?
Is your wife an undocumented immigrant? I think I broke his brain. He can't even like engage in like simple dialogue. Anyways, Jessica, thank you for the $5 on PayPal. He says,
all right, y'all, that's going to be the show for today. We will see you again on Monday, 1/11. Love and liberty to you, wherever you are, whatever jersey you wear. I would advise you, take off your jersey and just support liberty, truth, and love wherever you find them. But you will not find those inside of MAGA, period. And we all want that for ourselves. And I'm wishing from here in downtown Boulder, Colorado, USA, to you, wherever you are on this beautiful, stunning, amazing earth that we're all so lucky to be here today, able to participate, able to think, able to use our free will if we so choose. Man, I just want you to have love. I just want you to have liberty. And with that, I will see you again on Monday.